All right, so today we're going to talk about complex numbers. A complex number is a number that has a real part and an imaginary part. Normally you will see the real part first. So this is the real part. And then the number with the I is the imaginary part.
Real part.
The two numbers, like real number, imaginary number, you can't combine them because they're totally different. One is real, one is an imaginary, so you cannot combine them.
Is it easy?
Yep. Oh, no, that's an I and an N, imaginary. Yeah, I'm recording.
No, it says imaginary. Imaginary.
All right, so part B, adding and subtracting the complex numbers. The good news is you would treat the imaginary number just like you would treat a normal variable. So you're going to combine all of the imaginaries, you're going to combine all the reals, and that's your final answer. On number 1, we are adding these two terms here, and because this is an addition sign, it doesn't affect the problem, because if you were to distribute out an addition, it doesn't really change it. Does that make sense? You'll see that? Okay. So I don't really need the parentheses. I can just write 7 minus 2i minus 3 plus I. Okay, now I'm just going to combine like terms. So I'm going to combine my two real parts, 7 minus 3.
4.
Good. And then I'm going to combine my imaginaries, negative 2i plus I, negative 1i, or just negative I. And that's your answer.
Wow.
Okay, wait, so why did you take off the parentheses again?
It's a plus sign.
Okay.
And so when you distribute a plus sign, like when you distribute a positive 1, it doesn't change anything. Something times positive 1 is still that something.
So when you take off the parentheses, just take off the plus as well?
Yeah. All right, number 2. Number 2 is a minus sign. If you were to distribute this minus sign, would it change stuff?
Yes.
Yes, and so you have to remember to distribute the negative sign. It's one of the biggest mistakes. All right, plus sign doesn't change anything. The minus sign will. So this is 1 plus 5i minus 3, and then negative 1 times a negative 2i is a plus 2i. All right, so do you see how both of these signs changed because it was a minus sign? All right, and then you combine like terms. So 1 minus 3 and 5i plus 2i. 7, 9. Okay, number 3. I'm going to call in some people. Julian, on number 3, what do I do first? Very good. Distribute the negative, and so I get 8 plus 6i minus 8 plus 6i. All right, Teresa, what do I do next? Add the real numbers. So what is 8 minus 8? 0. It cancels out. So you don't actually have to write 0. If you want to, you can, but they cancel. And then, Sarah, what do I do next? Add the imaginaries. 6i plus 6i is 12i. It just has an I. Like it's a variable, but it has an I. It's don't overcomplicate it. You know, it's like that. All right, Chandler, what do I do on number 4? Right, number 4 is a plus sign, so I can just take the parentheses away. Minus 3 plus 9i, and then this is a positive 2 minus 4i. Patrick, what do I do next? The real part, yeah. Negative 3 plus 2. And 1. And then Jeremy, what do I do next?
Combine them back.
Alright, so 9i minus 4i. 5i. Alright, good. Questions, comments, concerns about the adding and subtracting? Sweet.
We don't divide.
No, we're not going to divide. So just the multiplying and that's it. Alright, multiplying is pretty much the same concept. You're going to multiply it, treat it like a variable. The only difference is this thing right here. I squared equals negative 1. Now, if you remember from yesterday, I is the square root of negative 1. And so the reason why this is true is because if I have the square root of negative 1 and I were to square it, the square root and the square cancel and you're left with negative 1. All right. So that's just kind of the logic behind this. This?
Yeah. Like it wouldn't be right if it didn't make sense, yeah?
Right.
That's all we want.
Alright. So let's multiply these. Number 5. What is 5i times negative 4i?
Negative 20i.
Negative 20i squared, because there's two of them. I times I. Alright, so when you have a term with an I times another term with an I, you will get I squared. Alright, and then we know that I squared is really what? Negative 1. So this is negative 20 times negative 1.
Do we have to write that?
Yes. So for simplifying, you have to change your I squareds to negative 1s. Alright, so that's the only extra step here besides normal variables.
Oh, so then that's the answer, negative 20.
So what's negative 20 times negative 1?
Oh,
Positive 20.
okay.
And then that's your final answer. Okay. So multiply like normal, combine like terms like normal, and then anywhere there's an I squared, change to a negative 1. And simplify from there. Alright, number 6. I have 3i that I'm going to have to distribute. So what is 3i times negative 5? Negative 15i. Good. And 3i times 2i. Very good. 6i squared. And I know that I squared is? Mm-hmm. Okay, and 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. So, you can write it like this. That's fine with me. Or if you want to write it with the real part first, which is kind of how you normally see it, that's fine too. The order doesn't technically matter. Alright, 7 and 8. I am going to do the distributing way with 7, and I will do the box with 8. You can choose which method you like, but you do have to distribute everything out and FOIL everything out on these problems. Alright, so on number 7, I am first going to take the 4 and distribute the 4. Yep, so 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. And then 4 times 2i, negative 8i. Good. Alright, so that takes care of the 4. I still have to distribute the 3i, though. So 3i times negative 1, negative 3i. And 3i times negative 2i. Very good. Negative 6i squared. Don't forget about your squared. That's kind of the most common mistake. Alright. Normally, you'll be able to combine like terms here. They both have an I. So, negative 8i minus 3i.
Negative 11i.
Negative 11i. And your I squared turns to what? -1. So -6 times -1. +6. And then the very last step, we just got to combine our real parts. So
-2 minus -11.
close. +2. +2 minus 11i. So your answers, they should have a real part and an imaginary part, or just one or the other. If you have I squared in your answer, it's not completely simplified. All right, so that's the distributing or FOIL method. You can also do the box way, which some people like. So I'll do the box way with number 8. So you draw a box, you put one of your terms, 7, and the 4i, 7, -4i, then you're going to draw your x, or your plus sign. So 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 4i, 28i. 7 times -4i, -28i. And then, yes, 4i times -4i is -16i squared. All right. Normally, these guys here will be able to be combined. So when you combine 28i minus 28i, what do you get?
I squared.
Zero. Because they cancel. So 28 minus 28 is 0. And so the i's not there either, because the whole thing just goes away. It's 0. So those guys go away. So I have 49. Those guys canceled. You can put 0 if you want, but you don't have to. And then minus 16 I squared. But I know I squared is really what?
-1.
-1. Which means that -16 times -1 is positive 16. And your final answer is 65. Good.
So are we done?
Nah, this is easy.
I'm going to call on some of you, but that's pretty much it, yeah.
We're gonna do the last score together.
I might just do 2 of them.
And they love.
Let's just do 10 and 12 and call it good. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. Number 10, Johnny. -7i times -3i is what? Huh? Yes, 21. Well, 21i squared because there's 2 of them. And then Bonnie, what do I do with the I squared?
Let's do
Turn it to a -1. And so Fernanda, what's my final answer? -1. All right. Do you want me to do box method or distributing? Okay. Okay. So let's see. Ethan, 2 times 4.
16.
Divided
by 2, 8.
8. Daisy, 2 times 5i.
10.
10i. Tess, -3i times 4.
Would be at -12.
-12i. And then Jimena, -3i times 5i. Very good. -15i squared. Let's see who I'm gonna call. George. What? When I combine these, what do I get? When I combine these like terms, 10 minus 12.
Yes.
-2, good. So I have 8 minus 2i. And then, TJ, what do I know that I squared equals? -1. And Silverio, -15 times -1. 15. So positive 15. And then Edgar, last step, combine my real parts and I get what? 23, very good. So 23 minus 2i.
Ooh, we did that.